Coinbase reported last night and disappointing numbers. Talk about the big metrics that you're watching and your take on the first quarter for Coinbase.
Yeah, look, this is the quarter we've been sort of waiting for as the bearish, kind of more bearish view on this stock. I think that the big things that we're watching here are, MTUs, the monthly transacting users. They promised 5 to 15 million. They're actually running below that, which means to even get to the midpoint of the guide, they're going to have to ramp dramatically in the second half. I don't see that happening in this environment. The big news today, like the big news that people should be paying attention for, is the language around the $500 million loss for the year. It sounds like that's more of a reality today than it was, say, in February where they first guided. They're burning a lot of cash and they're investing, which means that those losses are actually real.
Got it. And potentially losing market share. I know Mizuho has done some work on that. Talk about your expectations for Coinbase on the retail side of the business and some of the competition that's entering the market.
Yeah, it's a great point. So, it turns out that barriers to entry in crypto trading are very low. So what happened is you've had a company out of Singapore, Crypto.com, did a lot of advertising on the Super Bowl, did a lot of stadium naming rights, and all of a sudden they're coming from nowhere and they're starting to gain share. So we've done some analysis that shows you that they've actually started gaining share at the expense of Coinbase, we think. Again, this is our view. And it just shows you, I wouldn't say it's easy, but with enough marketing dollars, you can actually sort of take over. So those barriers to entry, right? The walls around the company, like the famous Warren Buffett, walls around the company, they don't really exist. And I think that's the fear here, is that there's really not, the moat isn't as strong as people thought it was, say, a year ago.
The moat, right. That's interesting. Well, I wonder too, Brian Armstrong and Alicia Haas, the CFO and CEO, talked about the NFT business, diversifying revenue and the long-term vision and the bull case really for Coinbase. Any signs that is becoming a reality and they're able to move away from just trading revenue? Yeah,
I mean, look, the actual, this is another great point. I'm not surprised, but you always make great points. So the software and services revenue was down like 25%, excuse me, quarter over quarter. So it was 213 million in the fourth quarter, down to 151 or so. So dramatic decline in that. Now, where's that NFT going? We think that they're spending $300 million plus on an industry that's questionable by itself. Like you're seeing, there has been some Wall Street Journal articles. We've actually called it out a month ago, if you remember, about how the interest in NFT is starting to fade as they're investing. So I think I would say this is kind of a me too in a questionable market. So I think it actually dilutes the moat. It doesn't improve the moat.
Got it. Interesting. And the stock price, the stock has been punished really since the beginning of this year, sort of end of last year. And it's down even more deeply than Bitcoin. We've talked about some of the crypto-related stocks trading in tandem, but if you lay those out side by side, Coinbase is actually performing a lot worse than Bitcoin. Can you walk us through that in terms of why some of these crypto-related stocks are underperforming Bitcoin itself?
Yeah, that's actually, there's actually a very simple explanation for that, in my opinion, which is if you own Bitcoin, then you're only, you're basically, you're gaining when it goes up and you're losing when it comes down. If you own any of the, I would say Coinbase, because that's really the big crypto stock that we cover, you're basically getting Bitcoin plus alternative coins, right? Minus the potential of fee degradation. So it's kind of like you're almost better off playing the pure play, cryptocurrencies than playing those traders. Because if you remember, like from the old days, from like, the TD Ameritrades and the Charles Schwabs of the world, great companies, but trading commissions went to zero, right? Partly because of Robinhood, which we like. So I think that's where trading commissions are going to. And it's kind of what I said before, like that 2 basis point on the institutional side should be very worrisome for anyone that's thinking that trading commissions are going to stay above 1% for retail. They're going down. And I think that's why the actual currencies, the actual cryptocurrencies might be better, or it's been proven to be better than owning the exchange.
And what about Block? That's another payments company or fintech company that you guys have covered and you've covered for a while. Talk about their crypto business. The stock actually has been sort of tied up in the narrative around cryptocurrencies, despite not making a huge percentage of net income from that line item.
Yeah.
Why is Square or Block at this point a crypto company?
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, right? I mean, as you've rightfully noted, Bitcoin revenue makes up less than 5% or 4% of gross profit, they're doing a tremendous job elsewhere, right? We're seeing gross profit for the Cash App accelerate. We're seeing the seller business hitting on all cylinders, and yet they get, as you said, punished because of this crypto stock association. I think that partially to blame, I'd say like partially, like I think a lot of it has to blame with, the management's focus on Bitcoin in terms of the visibility and kind of being amongst the, it's very famous that the CEO is one of the sort of the most outspoken people about Bitcoin. So I think when Bitcoin goes up, it helps them a little. When Bitcoin goes down, it hurts them a lot. So I think that maybe they need to do a bit of rethinking in how they position themselves, because the company itself, the fundamental, very different from Coinbase. The fundamentals are rock solid and they're getting better.